Hi, I'm Steve Cook, the author and creator of the song The Legend of Michigan's Dogman. When I first wrote this song back in 1987, I had no idea the kind of response it was going to generate, and of course I didn't expect to be sitting here all these years later still talking about it. As you might expect, a song like this generates a lot of questions, and so for the next few minutes we're going to answer a few of those questions. The internet has created a name for this kind of dialogue. It's called a FAQ, or an FAQ, which stands for Frequently Asked Questions. So let's get to it. I've always been a collector of folklore ever since I was a kid. I love ghost stories, stories of strange animals, and since I've had the opportunity to live in a number of areas of the country, I've always loved to talk to the local people, find out what makes their area interesting, find out the history and the stories that have sort of built what they are today. And almost every area of the country has some weird thing going on, whether it be a haunted house or some huge fish in a pond that no one ever seems to be able to catch. Of course, we've all heard of Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. Here in northern Michigan, we've had sightings of cougars going back into the 1970s, even though they were supposed to be extinct over 100 years ago, in this part of the country at least. And only recently has the DNR and the local officials begun to take those sightings seriously. The legend was actually born as an April Fool's prank. The morning host at WTCM, the radio station where I work, came to me and said, "We need something kind of fun to do on April Fool's Day." So I told him that I had all of these old folklore stories that I'd collected, and I'd like to put it together into a poem or a song or something like that. And the legend was born. What really took us by surprise after the song played on the radio was the number of people who came forward who didn't take it as an April Fool's joke, or a joke of any kind. They thought it was very real, and they believed that they had seen a creature very much like the one described in the song. Quite honestly, no. The Dogman was just invented out of thin air, really, although it is based on folklore stories from around the country. But in terms of the local Native American legends, I was pretty ignorant of those things. The local tribal elders, the Ottawa and Chippewa Indians, are pretty tight-lipped about those legends. They don't really talk about them that much, and it's difficult to get any sort of detail. However, the few Native Americans that I have talked to about it have told me that the history that their ancestors spoke of was very literal. They were very spiritual people in those days, but when they talked about creatures in the woods, they were talking about real creatures. So the Wendigo and the Shapeshifter do play into the legend of Michigan's Dogman, but they weren't really an inspirational part of the song. That's a really tough question to answer. There was a time when I would have said no, absolutely not. I created this thing, I invented it, there's no way it could be real. But enough credible people have come to me telling enough incredible stories that I now have to reassess my position. I've seen samples, I've seen photographs, I've seen some amazing film, hair samples, you name it. And I have to believe that the people who have had these experiences have seen something that's outside their normal range of experience. Whether that's a Dogman or not, I can't say. So my position on answering this question now is, I've never seen an atom, I've never seen the skeleton of a bear, but I know that those things exist. I accept them on face value. I've never seen a Dogman, but I know enough people who say that they have that I just have to say, I don't know if it exists or not. That's a very simple one to answer. If you'll remember, this song was created as an April Fool's prank on WTCM radio. If you take all of the areas that are mentioned in the song specifically, like Wexford County, Luther, all of those areas, you'll find that they all fall very nicely within the listening area of WTCM. We expected the song would play a few times and disappear, and so that's why all of the sightings in the song mentioned are within that same general area. There have been sightings all over the country. Wisconsin is a particular hot spot, but there have been sightings in the southeast, in the western states, California, Washington State, everywhere in the U.S. practically. That beautiful microphone is an RCA 77D. It's a vintage 1950s microphone, and up until about the early to mid 1980s, it was in everyday use here at WTCM Radio. When I first came to work here, we had 3 of them in use. Those mics have now become quite a collector's item, so they're not used on a daily basis anymore, but we do get them out for special occasions and displays and that sort of thing. If you ever watch the Larry King Show, you will see that he has the very same mic sitting on the desk right in front of him. His is just a prop, it doesn't work, but it sure is a pretty microphone. I don't want to mislead anyone, though. That microphone was not actually used to record the song. The microphone we used to record the song was a Russian-made microphone called an Octava. I believe the number code was an ML19. It's an ugly microphone. It doesn't have a whole lot of style, but it is a great sounding microphone, and studio professionals really prize these microphones for the great sound quality that they produce. There have been several attempts to convert the story of the legend, into a movie. There at least 4 screenplays have been written. I know of one that's landed on the desk of a pretty big name Hollywood producer, but to date, none of these projects have gotten off the ground. And in many ways, I kind of hope it doesn't. I like the mystery of the legend as a song, and too often when Hollywood and filmmakers get a hold of something like this, it ends up not really resembling what it started out as. And so I'm not sad that it's not been a major movie, but someday it may be. I think maybe part of the reason why it hasn't turned into a major motion picture is financial, because werewolf movies typically are not big box office sellers. Yes, I do. That's the way the song started in 1987, and that's the way it continues to this day. In 2007, we donated close to $6,000 to various charities. The primary beneficiaries of the donations are animal rescue groups. One of my favorites is AC Paw in Mansalona. Another is the Cherryland Humane Society here in Traverse City. I've been an animal lover all my life, and these organizations do work that's very difficult, and I really admire what they do. And it really does my heart a lot of good to realize that maybe 1 or 2 animals have found a happy home because of the song that I wrote. Actually, no, I'm not. And I really don't want anyone to ever be so scared that they're afraid to go walking in the woods or go camping, especially kids. I think it's important to recognize that the song was created as an April Fool's joke. It's a fun story. It's like a campfire story or a scary movie. We all like to explore that part of our mind which makes us feel frightened of something, especially when there's really no threat involved in it. And I think that's the magic of the legend, is that it really doesn't threaten anybody. It's just fun. And I will say this, going back to my statement earlier about whether or not the Dogman exists. If he does exist, I can say that I've never heard of the Dogman ever approaching anyone in a manner which was threatening or harmful. And in those incidents where there has been actual contact between people and the Dogman, it's generally a sort of a hit and run thing where the fear factor is much more damaging than anything else, sort of like you would feel perhaps if you ran across a wolf or a bear on a trail sometime. Well, I've been performing and recording this song in various forms for a long, long time now. And I did say when the 2007 version was released that it would be the final version of the song. And I specifically wrote the last verse of the song to make it more timeless and not so confined to any particular decade. So I never say never, but I believe this will be the last version of the song, unless some event or incident inspires me to go forward and write another version of the song. But don't count on it. Wow, that's a tough question. There are so many things that have been gratifying about this. I think probably there are 3, though, that come to mind. First, of course, is the fact that we were able to donate so many dollars to so many worthy charities over the years. We really don't have an exact dollar figure, but I would have to say that we're probably inching up on the $50,000 range over the years in terms of donations from the legend to these charities. And that's really gratifying. That's really nice to know that, that this little song that started out so simply has grown into such a huge fundraiser for these charitable organizations. The second thing is the way that the song has become such a part of the local folklore and the fabric of this area. My friend Jack O'Malley said once that the legend has gone way beyond just being a song on the radio. It's going to outlive all of us, and that's a very gratifying thing too. To know that this little piece of poetry with a simple drum beat and melody line influences so many people in so many ways. And that really kind of dovetails into the third thing that's been gratifying about it. And that's when I see people will come to me and say, I first heard this song when I was 5 years old or 8 years old, and it scared me half to death, and I told my friends about it, and we would play it on our campouts in the backyard and things like that. And yet these people will come to me as adults with their own kids who are now 5 and 8 years old, and their kids are starting to tell me how scary they think the song is and how much fun they think it is. That's probably one of the more gratifying things about it, is that this song has enjoyed a run of 20 plus years now, and there's not many songs that can live that long and still generate that much excitement through so many generations of people. Well, there are some answers to a few of the questions that people have had over the years about the legend of Michigan's Dogman. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you do have additional questions, you can feel free to email them to me at any time. My email address is paw-prince@michigan-dogman.com. And of course, we invite you to visit the website, which is michigan-dogman.com, at any time. There's a lot of information there, a lot of history of the song, some reports of sightings of the Dogman and so forth. And we hope you'll visit someday soon. And remember, the best advice you may ever get is don't go out at night.